Okay, recording's on, and we're gonna go live in 3, 2.
Are you introduction?
Yeah, I'll introduce. What's going on, everybody? We are just winding up to get the podcast going. Thank you for joining us this evening. And just so everybody knows, bottom phone is live stream, top phone is.
Top phone is just my recording.
And we'll record podcasts on here.
Boom. There's water if you want it too, so. Is there?
Yep, I'm just making sure it's
Okay.
working. All right. What's going on, everybody? John Bliss here, and this is the Wasatch Way podcast. We appreciate everybody that's been tuning in for the last 2 episodes. We are on episode number 3, and the most exciting part about all of this is, I'm going to put this right in the middle to make sure it picks up all of us. The most exciting part is we have another special guest tonight. We have with us Tori Broughton, who is from the City Planning Committee.
Heber City Planning Commission, yep.
Excited to have you tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
It was super last minute. It was kind of a text thrown out there, and I'm just happy that you obliged. One thing that we wanted to go over with everybody tonight is, we didn't go live last night. Typically, we go live Tuesdays around 6 or 7. And with the election happening, and I had a special guest that might be on next week that ended up not able to come this week. We did want to go over just briefly some of the election results. I think everybody knows who's president. I don't think we need to go over that. I think everybody's probably to death about that one.
It's about 50-50. There's, like you said earlier, there's 50% that are happy and 50% that aren't happy. But
I have a tinfoil hat opinion on that. And for me, I really personally feel like our government shouldn't be big enough that it affects our daily lives like that. Like whether you're extremely happy and you had the best day ever or you're extremely sad and have the worst day ever, our federal government shouldn't have the power to be able to do that.
I was talking to an individual today about that, and one of their thoughts was, why can't we get back to just after 9/11? It didn't matter who we were. The whole country came together and, celebrated our freedom and our democracy, and just everybody came together as one.
Yeah, and I mean, that's half the purpose of what we're doing. That's half the purpose of the Wasatch Way is, as a community, it doesn't matter if things are going great or things are going poor in our country, and I experienced this through COVID, is even in our community how incredible everybody was. And it's still that way today. You walk into a store, you walk into a gas station, you walk into a bike shop, there's a friendly face, somebody to say hi. And, I was talking with the girl that does the infant swimming lessons. I wish I could remember her name right now. But she said something incredible to me that I never dawned on me is when you go to these foreign European countries, people don't ask each other, what are you doing today? How are you doing? What's going on? She says, I used to be so offended because it's so intrusive. Why do you care what I'm doing later today? But the longer that she's been here, the more she kind of realized, it's just the community caring about you. And that's who we are, and that's who we still are. And that's, part of what we're trying to do with the Wasatch Way. But I have some of the election results pulled up. We want to talk about a little bit of locally, kind of who we've picked up as leaders.
Okay, oops, too far. So, where do we want to start? Just with
Governor was Cox.
Governor was Cox.
Senate was Curtis.
Senate was Curtis. There's Reverend Cox Henderson. Attorney General was Derek Brown. Where we at? Treasurer, State Senate.
What affects Wasatch?
What affects Wasatch? Mike Kohler was reelected on the House of Representatives.
64%, not bad.
Cole Kelly was state school board. I don't know him, but I've seen all of his signs around.
Is he like Kelly from here, Kelly?
No.
Okay.
Colleen Botter made the county council seat B, but she was kind of running unopposed, I think. So, Kendall Crittenden won county council seat D. Mark Nelson was reelected council seat E. Spencer Parker ran unopposed. Bob Adams for county assessor. Marcy Murray for county recorder. Kaiserman for surveyor. Treasurer Amber Gibbs. Tom Stone for the school board district E seat.
That was a tight race too.
I didn't have that on my ballot. There must not have
didn't
been
either.
somebody
I
for
think
my
he's
area.
Midway, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Midway.
I mean he was midway, but like
Oh, yeah, I don't think I did either.
Kim Dickerson was seat F. Seat G was Brianna Diedrichsen.
That one's close though.
Yeah,
This
that
is
one
one
was
of the
really
ones
close.
that might change with those outstanding
With those
ballots.
outstanding
Yeah.
ballots. So
Good point. Asterisk on here is they haven't released the full ballot count yet.
Yeah.
This was like as of a certain point yesterday, right?
There's still about 4,000 uncounted ballots.
yeah,
And when I
there's
checked
mean,
my ballot, it hadn't been counted yet.
I mean the
Oh, interesting.
Tom Stone, I don't say Ellert Bradley. Tom was 42 and Bradley's 38, so that's still
Yeah, that one's big.
margin. Dickerson and Dickerson was 48, Lund was 31. But yeah, that Diedrichsen, that is really
It's
close.
like less than 100 votes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
wild.
less than
Yeah.
100 votes.
That's wild.
And then all the judicial people, everything was retained in there.
Yeah, from what I saw, all the constitutional amendments passed and all of the judicial retention passed.
So yeah, so good election. I can't remember. I was reading somewhere this morning about this is probably, let me get down here. The Midway open space bond passed.
Yeah, by a landslide.
I don't
Landslide.
know anything about this. I feel I feel ridiculous. I probably should, but didn't we pass an open space bond 2 elections ago? An election ago?
I also feel bad that I don't know about this, but I think specifically it was a county.
Yeah, I think it was a
initiative
county.
instead of just
Yeah,
a
instead this
midway.
was Midway City. This is I read a little bit on it, but not being a resident of Midway, I didn't do a whole lot for it. But
If you're
that-
following along and you know a little bit more about this, please leave it in the comments. And also, if you're leaving comments, please keep them positive. We know election is not a fun thing for a lot of people to talk about. And so we're just kind of trusting that we're trying to keep it positive. We hope you guys would too.
Yeah, and I think this election, any election, is a good example of how important local elections are.
100%.
100%.
But yeah, local elections are
100%.
really important, and I don't think people realize how you can show up to a city council meeting and you can get something changed in person. Like what
Yeah.
is passed at city and county meetings affects us tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yeah, Jeremy has a great story about that.
We had our A-frame sign that my wife has her business on out front, and it disappeared. And we found out that the city had taken it because it was in the right of way. But they were going to eliminate a lot of the signage, A-frame signs, the teardrop banners, everything. They were gonna just say, we're not doing any of this. And so me and my wife went to the city meeting, and from what I heard, they were ready to just pass it. And I was the only one that got up and spoke, and I kind of got a little heated, got a little emotional with it. But by the end of the meeting, they tabled it and they didn't pass it. They said,
Yep.
let's, go to this discussion. So, I mean, I get people are busy and can't see all the meetings. Write in, email in, watch it online. I mean, I watched 2 or 3 county planning commission meetings online, and it's the first time I'd watched them. I'd never gone to a city meeting or a county planning meeting.
Yeah, you
Or
can still
anything,
comment
so-
online. You can still be part of the meeting.
Yeah,
even
because
sitting
I
online.
think on one of the county council meetings, Spencer was like, does anybody have questions online or this? And you can hit raise your hand and they'll,
Yeah.
turn the sound on because they mute everything, but they'll turn the sound on and say, state your name and ask your question. So if you don't like what's going on in the city or county, show up to a city or county planning commission, because if something happens,
Do we want to turn the camera? I thought it would turn with us, but apparently it's not. A little unprofessional, but it's all right.
oh, way to go.
We're in Heber.
We're new. We're still just, trying to figure this stuff out.
All right.
But,
Give you guys a little tour of the studio. Osman has worked really hard to set up for us.
oh yeah, very hard. There we go. Oh, hey, look, it turned.
That's funny.
I didn't even notice that.
I assumed it was going to turn with us, so that was my bad. I'm sorry. Thanks for pointing that out there, Dustin. Appreciate that.
Hey, that was Fenderly that mentioned that.
Yep, leave it to him to catch the small
How does
details.
he know one leg shorter than the other?
Grassroots. I love a grassroots effort.
Alrighty.
Now that issue is
Oh, I'm like going, where? Oh, there's John. There he is. There's a delay. So we kind of went over the.
Yeah, we went over the election results. A lot of it was kind of predictable, I feel like.
What are you doing there?
I don't
Taking
know.
pictures
Why wouldn't
There
I
we go.
struggle?
Exactly.
Yeah, we went over the election results. A lot of it was pretty predictable.
There you go.
We did have Tori was on the ballot for County Council seat D. I'm sure a sting of a loss, but I do want to say how incredible it was to see how far you came in just a very short period of time of picking up votes. And I do want to see you run again. I really, really do. I also want to say that there's a lot of unopposed seats. I think a lot of people should be jumping in and running. More important to me than a presidential election is a local election. More things can be affected immediately locally. That if we set a good example for the neighboring counties, then they do it. And if we all set a good example, the rest of the state does. And if our state sets a good example, you're seeing where this is going from here. You start locally, work globally. And I think I'd like to see a lot more local names on the ballot.
I first appreciate you pointing that out because yes, today has not been my favorite day of this year. And I ran for city and also lost. So my joke this whole season was I'm a loser, not a quitter. But now I'm not sure if I'm going to be a quitter or not. I haven't decided. Maybe in a couple days I'll feel different. But I think that your point of not letting folks run unopposed is super important. And I'm going to be transparent and say that I'm a little biased, right?
Sure.
I ran for office. I have worked really hard to be fair about my opponents and not hit below the belt. But I also feel like I can be honest. And I'm not going to put you on the spot, but when you look at some of the voters' guides or some of the debates that we all engaged in, for me, I felt like there was an obvious effort put forth by the opponents of the incumbents, whereas some of the incumbents didn't seem as prepared or like they needed to put forth as much effort.
Yep.
And I think that that's what makes our government work is
100%.
when folks run unopposed and they're forced to be on their game. When you've been in your seat for 20 years or 10 or 8, I think it's a little easier to rest on your laurels. And when you're fighting for that seat,
It's
You're
a
hungrier.
different it's
Yeah.
a different thing. You had radio ads, you had Facebook ads, you had a lot of stuff, and it seems like a lot of the other people were just like signage.
and I worked really hard to be at every meeting I could. I attend every single city council meeting. I'm on the planning commission. I worked hard to attend every county meeting. That wasn't as easy during a busy summer at the bike shop because their meetings are at 4:00 in the afternoon. But then before any of my debates and before any of my interviews, I tried to do as much research as possible because I wanted to speak I wanted to be able to speak accurately about things. And especially in the debates, if one of my opponents were to say something, I wanted to make sure that if there were an opportunity to call them out, that I was correct in that.
Yeah.
So, and I felt that about some of the other opponents as well, and I think that that's what we should ask for in our elected
Well,
officials.
it is. But Heber's changing. I've been here 50 plus years. Well, 50, not 50 plus, 50 years. But to see people, it is, forever it's the same person, unopposed. And I think that's where people get the good old boy club from it's the same people. They know how to go in and ask for something, and they know if they ask a certain way, they're going to get their way. But I think fresh faces, fresh ideas, especially with the way Heber's changing, it's not I don't want to say it's not the mom and pop local shop anymore. We're open to the world.
Tremendous growth. It's insane. And that's a perfect segue because you're on the planning commission. So what changes are you seeing coming down the pipeline? I know that there's a huge thing about the walkable downtown Heber. And I've seen drawings, I've seen plans, and it looks good. And of course I have hesitations and worries about it. And there was also the Wasatch Highlands. With those two things, is there anything about those you want to say? Is there anything about what's coming down the pipeline that you want to talk about?
Sure. As far as the walkable alleyway, C Street, whatever we want to call it. That's been a concept that's been on the books for quite a while. I actually knew about it before I moved to Heber, actually, a few years ago. And yes, it's full transparency. I run a business that is on Main Street, and our back door opens to where that alley would be. And so again, I'm certainly biased, but I feel like right now, until we have a bypass, or if we never have a bypass, it is an opportunity for Heber to have some semblance of a downtown. For me, I think it's an opportunity for people to finally own a small business that they wanted to own on Main Street.
Yeah.
I think it's an opportunity for somebody to open a restaurant or a cafe or a bookstore, because they'll have, if everything goes as the concept hopes, there will be parking. And I'm not even talking about the park. I'm just talking about the alleyway.
The alleyway
There will
between
be,
the park and
there is an
city center
opportunity for
kind of.
businesses to open their doors onto a promenade, is what I would call it. A safe street, alleyway, whatever you want to call it, to have tables outside, to have a bakery, to have a cafe, to have a bookstore. It'll finally be something where you could maybe have a conversation with somebody.
Instead of semis going by and ambulances and 1,000 traffic and.
I've got the perfect example today. There was a mural done on the side of Body and Soul Studios of Bark the Bear, and it was incredible. And I had the opportunity to interview with the artist, and we tried to do it on the side of Main Street. And it's just not possible. It's not. So I went there and I got a couple of good shots, and Body and Soul Studios was incredibly nice enough to let me come in and use one of their vacant offices. They have available office space. Nice plug, right? They let me use one of their offices in the back to get this guy in and a nice quiet interview. But it would be really incredible that if I'm going to interview somebody from Heber who's making an impact on Heber, to be able to see Heber and not just a blank wall.
Yeah, and that mural, we have some really amazing murals in town.
Yes.
That one is incredible.
Yeah.
He's the same guy that did the brown trout on the side of the laundromat.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Well, and that's all
So
part
good.
of that wildlife initiative to have murals in every town or something like that.
They want one in every county in Utah, and he just got done doing one in Logan, Utah as well that he was showing me videos of, and it was pretty cool.
I wouldn't want to pull anything away. Like, I'm very Heber downtown focused, and transparency, I don't own anything. I don't own the business I run. I don't own the building. I own a house that I live in.
Yeah.
It's 120 years old. But I wouldn't want to pull anything away from those guys either. I think that it could be a great addition. And I think it could be a great example of how, if we can invest in our downtown and build something that locals, yes, we have a tourism industry, but we don't have to rely on tourists. They're gravy for us. We have an amazing population that deserves a place to hang out and to gather. And I think if we could just start a block at a time. And I'm skeptical too. Not every part of it's perfect, but I think if we could start a block at a time, more of the skeptics would be like,
Oh, look at that.
okay,
I mean,
maybe
I
I'm
look
interested.
at, overseas, I look at pictures and stuff, and people are just meandering down. It's almost like Park City Main Street, but take the cars out of the picture.
Take the cars out. Mm-hmm.
Take the cars out of the picture. They've got, a pub that's got seating outside.
Mm-hmm.
You can, there's a bagel place, there's, there could be a butcher shop, there could be a flower shop, and it doesn't have to be like 1,000 square foot brick and mortar. It can be a cubicle.
We need a good cigar shop in this town. That's one thing that drives me crazy. I have to drive all the way across the mountain. That's neither here nor there.
Every time I go to Cancun or go overseas, I bring you one.
Yeah.
But see, I look at that as, how big does it I don't smoke cigars, I've never been in a cigar shop, but I would guess in the town of Heber, you could probably put a cigar shop in a space about this big.
Oh, easy. Even
and
half
that
of
would
this.
be such an opportunity for you or for somebody
It's been a lifelong dream of mine,
to
actually.
have a small business that was affordable, got regular traffic, parking was already taken care of. Like, yes, I work for a corporation that came in and bought a local business. We were really excited to build upon what Slim and Nobby's already built. But we're like the pillar to hold up all the other little guys. And so if you have a couple of us bigger guys in between, then that gives the little guys a lot safer space, and it kind of holds up that economy and gives them a place, and it brings attractions.
Because if somebody comes into your bike shop to do something and they walk out the back and somebody's fresh roasted coffee, and if they're a coffee drinker, they're gonna meander. They may not be headed to get, they're coming to see you, But if it was me and there was a bakery and a coffee shop or
Yeah.
something
I'd
like
be
that,
at the
you'd walk
bakery.
outside.
And then
Yeah.
I'd see the bike shop and go,
Yeah.
oh, I like bikes too.
I like
Yeah.
bikes, bakery,
Right there by Trek is Mount Wellness Bar.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great place for people to discover. Gluten-free, clean meals. Alicia's a gem of this community. I think, that's just like that. Like, discovering a small business is perfect.
Yeah.
But if I was meeting a contractor, if you were meeting somebody you were going to interview,
Yeah.
you could go over, pull up a table, set your camera up, and there's not the roar of
Yeah.
semis going by. And it's not a lot of semis. There are oil trucks coming through, but
It's just traffic.
There's
It's just
times
cars.
there's times I go to one stop and get a drink and a breakfast sandwich, and it's 35 or 40 minutes to get to Smith's. And growing up here, you went up 189 and hit a flashing red stop sign
Yeah.
and turned, and the only light was on for south.
Yeah.
And it took 2 seconds to go north.
Yeah.
And now it's just, I use the back roads.
Yeah.
That's one of the
Yeah.
reasons we moved our shop to Midway. We come from Park City, we come down River Road to Midway rather than going into Heber, and it's 10 times faster.
I bet.
So,
I think it has an opportunity to create a flywheel effect for people to understand what having a nice downtown feels like.
Mhm.
And then once they get a little taste of it, maybe they want a little
starts
bit more.
growing and
Mhm.
starts growing and starts growing. But it's opportunities to get, not a fast food joint.
Exactly.
McDonald's, Burger King, all the little fast food joints, but getting just artisan specialty.
Yeah.
John could have a cigar shop, and on the backside you can have a barbecue shop place.
I saw that.
Two
barbecue.
kinds of smoke.
That was. We already have a name.
We have a name. Two kinds
at
of
us.
smoke. There we go. Okay.
So that's the
The downtown
that's the
stuff.
downtown.
What about the Wasatch Highlands? What's
And I have some. I know that you're not going to know everything about this, but I'm going to have a whole bunch of questions about this. But it's about 4,000 acres, right?
Mhm.
How many homes go on those 4,000 acres?
So there are a lot of unanswered questions about the Wasatch Highlands right now, and
Yeah.
I will say again, out of full transparency, very little of these questions have been answered. Very little nothing's been decided, and I think one of the biggest confusions right now is the only thing that Heber is looking to pass, for lack of a better term. It's not even pass. It's just to open the discussion to change the annexation policy. So we're in the very most infant stages of even considering this. So
Okay.
they have to change the policy before they even consider the annexation. And I know it feels like, well, if they do one, they're obviously going to do the other.
Right.
But they can't even consider the second. And I completely understand the people who say we shouldn't even consider changing the policy. I understand that too. And I won't get ahead of myself, but hopefully we can touch on why it is important for them to actually just consider it. But yes, it's about 4,000 acres.
now?
And-
Where is this at? Is it east?
It's east. It would be up Little Pole Road.
Oh.
It's kind of like, is it kind of like in between? You go up Little Pole Road and it's like kind of on the mountain in between Wolf Creek and.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
It basically would sandwich in between the Red Ledges and the new Wellberg property, Jordanelle Ridge, Victory Ranch,
And Wolf Creek.
and Wolf Creek. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's up on the hill.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
I know exactly what it is.
If you're trying to annex that property, there's a whole lot of county property like in between the two, right? Because you go up Center Street and you have the LDS Stake Center, and the right where the temple is
technically
county.
it wouldn't be an island because technically it would still touch because really that city boundary goes around Red Ledges, around
Okay.
Jordanelle Ridge. So
Okay.
it wouldn't be an island.
It wouldn't be like you have a big chunk of property that's county, and then all of a sudden on the other
Right.
side is city.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So there have been no units or ERUs discussed at this point. There's a lot of conjecture and speculation out there. Anything from 1,400 to 4,000 has been discussed. I don't remember any of those numbers coming from the developers themselves. When the Planning Commission did a field trip with the developers, they were pretty hesitant to say anything about a specific number. So that is still
Now, is so obviously there's property that the developers purchased.
They're
Was there-
actually working in partnership with the Christensen family that owns the property.
Okay, So was it subdivided for X amount of lots in the beginning? Like there could be 100 lots in there and now they're wanting to...
Yes. So there's also the SITLA property, which I'm not going to know what SITLA stands for off the top of my head, and I apologize for that, but it is state-owned land
Something.
that has something to do with school use.
Gotcha.
So that's about 700 acres in addition to this other piece of property. So the Christensen family property is county property, so it would be zoned for one home on every 160 acres
Okay.
right
Gotcha.
now. So that, I think the math on that is like 25 or 35
Yeah.
homes.
One home on every 160 acres.
I can do that.
That makes me feel a little.
Can I put a fence around it?
Yeah, and then the SITLA property is different, and that's one of the questions at the meeting that was had between the city and the county a few weeks ago at the senior center. Is everyone seemed to have questions on who SITLA reports to
Mhm.
and who zoning, etc. they have to answer to. And as of a meeting a couple weeks ago, nobody was super clear on that, and there's apparently case law that shows that both they only answer to the state and can do kind of whatever the state allows, which we know in the state of Utah could be anything.
That's kind of like MIDA with the ski resort.
So they're still kind of working that out.
Gotcha.
Last I heard. So I think that's one of the big questions they're trying to answer before making any decisions.
So when people go crazy on Facebook and go, we don't want Highlands, we don't want any of this, it's really just at the infancy. There's
Oh.
not really
They haven't even approved. They basically haven't even approved the option to think about it. Is
Okay.
where they are right now.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And so if people want to keep in touch with how all of this is working out, you know, the meeting on the annex, as it progresses, go to your city meetings and your county meetings, right?
City meetings, county meetings, planning commission. I'm not sure when or if this will come back across planning commission's desk yet. I think it's great. This is an opportunity for the city and the county to work together on something, which they don't have the best record of doing, at least to explore this initially. The developers went to the county first, and the county said, no thanks, you should go talk to Heber City, and so that's why they're now talking to Heber City. So
Gotcha.
the reason why Heber cannot just walk away from this is because, and maybe not only, but we are not their only option. There are other options on the table for ways that they could still make this development happen. One of them, and I don't know how viable it is because I'm not an engineer or a county official, but one of them is that they could incorporate.
they can become their own little
They
town.
could become their own little
Kind of
town.
like Hideout.
Mhm.
Hideout. And then I think there's even, you go into Summit County on the West Hills
Yeah.
and they're talking about incorporating into their little town.
And so once they do that, Heber's basically off. Heber really has no say
Has
over
no
what
say.
happens from there. So that's why when we look at a lot of these developments that there's always an interest for the county or the city to make sure that they've explored every opportunity to put themselves in the driver's seat, really. And when you look at that land specifically, the access to that land doesn't come from the north or the east. It only comes from the south and the west. So if they incorporated and they built 4,000 units, all of that traffic comes through us, and we get no tax revenue.
No tax revenue.
No, what are
So-
the fees when you
so-
build?
Impact fees.
Impact
No
fees.
Yeah.
I'm on
like
the planning
going-
commission, don't worry about me. We wouldn't get any impact fees and things like
Yeah.
that. Now, it's a balance, and it makes it seem like, oh, Heber just wants to be greedy and get all those impact fees. I am new enough to this that I still believe in my heart that Heber really wants what's best for the
Yeah.
valley, and for
Yeah.
them, they do have to put themselves in the driver's seat
Yeah.
and make sure
Well,
that
and
that's
you
the
know, I
case.
mean, you look at it, city council, county council, there's what, 7 county councils, and is there 7 city?
5?
5? So there's 5 councilmen or women sitting on, city council, and they're representing 10,000 people.
Mhm.
So, giving them input, reading emails, stuff like that, they're doing, essentially they're doing the best they can with what they have to work with.
Yeah, and if you watched the meeting last night, I think it's a great example. They were talking about a bunch of stuff going on at the airport, and as I sat in the audience and was somebody who ran for city council, there are times where I go, gosh, I'm glad I didn't win, because you need to be the expert on some random topic like one day out of your life. to make these decisions. And sometimes they're easier topics, like should we let the new Smiths have a 25-foot sign? We can all agree,
Yes
probably
or
not
no,
necessary. Yeah. But when you're trying to decide fees at the airport, it's a little bit harder
Oh, yeah.
to be
I bet.
Yeah.
to be an expert on that day about that thing. So yeah, I still have a lot of faith in our leaders, and this will be an interesting one to see how it comes down.
I think it's just for them. It's just open-minded. Just being open-minded. I mean, I'm not on council. I don't know that I'd ever run. I'd probably stress and die.
Mm-hmm.
But
whenever you see these issues get brought up on Facebook, the only thing we see is the negativity and hesitation and the resistance of wanting to do things and change. Now, I am 100% part of that problem. I am one of the first people that says, hell no, we don't need to do that. That's not a good idea. What about this? What about that? I got humble pie today because the art that I loved so much on the side of that wall was paid for by the TOPS tax. Part of it was. And to me, when I heard about the TOPS tax, I was one of the loudest voices saying, we don't need that. If you want to fund art, if you want to fund trails, get private investors. I shouldn't be taxed for that. But seeing that art and knowing that the other piece of my favorite art in town was part of all this, I was like, oh, I guess I don't mind so much anymore because it's something I like. And then I need to realize, like, it's not just about me. Heber's not about John. Newsflash.
it's about Jeremy.
Well, here's exactly. That's what I was gonna say. I mean, and here's what I want to say about that, and not just because I'm sitting next to you and you had me on your podcast, but
Okay, you're done.
yeah, I have to say that the two of you specifically, but that's been one of the best things about this campaign that I just finished. I have met so many people that I bet on a lot of ideological issues we probably don't sit on the same side of the table about. But what I love about both of you and so many other people is you're super open-minded to hear what the other side is. And you might walk away and go, still don't disagree, but I appreciate it. Or you go,
She's
man,
nuts. Sorry.
yeah. Crazy. Or you go, that doesn't line up with what I normally feel, or it wouldn't have lined up with something I felt in this other situation, but I see where this makes sense.
Well, that discussion we had.
And I find that about so many people in Heber.
That discussion we had in your bike shop when I stopped in and introduced myself, about you moving and wanting a condo or a townhome closer to the city. Mm-hmm. You were Wing Point or you were here. I was very against high rise or
like four
density,
plexes,
like fourplexes along First East and First West.
Mm-hmm.
But then once you said, well, I want to ride my bike to work. Well, if I live at Wing Point and I got to go to the grocery store and you want to ride your bike, you got to ride on 40 to
take
Leeds.
your life into your own hands, yeah.
If you're at Coyote Ridge and you're going to ride to Smith's, you're on 40. There's not really anything to interconnect.
And I know that words like density and developer are dirty words, but they're just words. They're words that are used to describe things. And I know that there's been some rhetoric on the social medias that I want to eliminate single family housing and make everyone get rid of their yards, which is not true or sane. Yeah. I personally wish I didn't have a yard. And I think when people hear the word density, that's what they're picturing are 84 unit square apartment buildings.
Yeah.
Which I also would not want to have.
To me, when they said density and housing, I was thinking like Hell's Kitchen in New York, where you had this.
I think people picture
40-foot,
the projects,
80-foot, yeah, the projects where
my blood pressure. I'm just talking about it.
Yeah. I wouldn't advocate for anything more than 3 stories unless maybe we discussed a setback at 4 stories. I wouldn't advocate for that anything off of the 100s. I personally, and might pay for this, but I think that we could double or triple the density of downtown and nobody would notice if we did it in a very mindful way. And that's kind of where I come from is I think with the proper planning, we can make some of these changes and nobody even notices. And I don't even think we would feel the congestion if we did it the right way.
Well, and it goes back to that walkable downtown. So if you have your businesses, you know, the old bank block, the stuff that Tom's redone, which he's done a really good job on those buildings. But if you went to, you know, First West and got down towards like Maverick and stuff like that, where there's houses butted up against business, you know, the walkable downtown, if it transpires, it could go further past the Tabernacle.
We have an amazingly flat valley for living in the mountains.
Yeah.
And we could have some really great alternative transportation networks that aren't going to eliminate the congestion. I'm not delusional.
Yeah.
But they would help with congestion, but what they really help with are parking issues.
Yeah.
The Thursday night market's a great example.
Yeah.
The Halloween walk.
That was fun.
The Halloween walk was amazing.
Yeah.
I have no idea where those people parked, and I bet every neighbor was annoyed.
I was gonna say, at the concert in the park, there's been times where we go down, you know, to a favorite food truck, and I pulled in, and I was like, maybe the bumper of my Chevelle was like in this guy's driveway, and I came out, and he got upset, and he pulled his truck within inches of my Chevelle. I lost it.
Yeah.
But I was encroaching on his little bit of parking, but
And I understand that.
But yeah, that's where, you know, you build like that fourplex that I'm working on across from the park. That's for maybe, I don't even think they're 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
They're like 2-bedroom. The bottom ones are 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, living room, kitchen. The upstairs are 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, living room, kitchen.
Yeah.
That I can see.
Yeah, and I think in some of those spaces too, there's room for that. I would never want to put townhomes in at more than maybe 4 in a row.
Because parking.
Yeah, parking. My thing also, I was just chatting, I actually drove around kind of the new Coyote stuff, because that has grown this summer.
Yeah.
They've added a lot. And I don't want to prioritize cars. But people have cars here, and this is a very active community. A lot of people are moving here to be active. So they not only have cars, but they have bicycles and kayaks and skis and snowboards and dirt bikes, etc.
Which warehouse does she want to go to? I have.
Yeah.
I've got 2 storage units and a 1,250 square foot warehouse in Heber.
He's got electric bikes and scooters and
I've got electric bikes. I've got scooters. I have my fishing boat. I have my toys, and you gotta have somewhere to put them.
That's the thing, is I think that if we can build slightly more dense housing for those of us who want something more dense. I'm a single person who doesn't want to do yard work, but I have 5 bicycles in my dining room because I don't have a garage.
Yeah.
If we can build some of this housing that is going to attract that person, we solve a lot of problems. Not all of them.
Yeah, the next problem that gets solved by that though is the people who, when you get these types of homes that cost less, we can afford to employ, like a lot of these businesses that are struggling to find employees who can work for a specific wage and can afford to live here. Because right now, like if you need an employee that is under $75,000 a year, you're either settling for high school student, the very slim market here, or somebody who's coming across the canyons.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're hiring somebody from across the canyons, you're not going to have them for 30% of the winter.
Right. Yep.
I mean, my one guy that I have employed here, he drives up from Pleasant Grove.
I have one employee that comes from Linden as well, and the winter's tough.
This morning he texted me and goes, I just got in the canyon and traffic is crawling. I don't know if there's an accident or what, but he goes, it was almost at a standstill.
Yeah, and I think that we've talked about that a little bit. Like, to grow our downtown, we need more housing. More housing is going to give us people, and we need that housing because we need employees to work in our businesses. Yeah. And the most reliable employee to work in your business is one that lives here.
Yeah.
And also, anyone who works here should live here. They should be allowed to. We have an amazing community that people want to be in. And
I mean, there's reasons people move here.
And we are all going to find better employees when they're employees who want to be here. And they're not just employees who need a job.
Yeah.
People who need a job are great. But I think that there's an opportunity. We're not going to solve the housing crisis, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. And I feel like we approach a lot of these bigger issues with the, well, if we can't solve it all, we shouldn't do anything.
Yeah, we'll throw up our hands, let's
Yeah.
move on to the next subject,
Yeah.
which, hence where we're at with the bypass. I mean, I think
Yeah.
there was an 80-year-old lady that said she remembers her dad talking about a bypass when she was a kid.
That is funny.
So, but you know, I mean, the walkable downtown, you have shops on the bottom and living space above.
And no, do you want to live in that kind of living space?
I don't.
No, do you? Probably not. Sounds like there's a few other people that feel
Yeah.
that way as well. But I can
But-
assure you, there are folks who do.
I also like, I don't know, to me, this is my opinion, and it does not reflect the opinions of the two sitting next to me or the Wasatch Way podcast. I do not want to see Heber City become Jackson Hole. I think Jackson Hole is beautiful and it has its place in America, but to live there, you have to make millions of dollars. And there's people who drive hours to work there.
Well, it's really interesting that you bring up Jackson Hole because I recently learned something about Jackson that I was surprised to hear. And clearly, these things that they've put into place are too late. And I would never advocate for this, but Jackson has gotten to the point to where they've eliminated single-family housing in their downtown. So if you purchase a single-family home in downtown and you want to tear it down and build a bigger one, you can't.
You can.
You either have to work with what you've got, or you have to build multifamily housing in that space because they're so short.
Well,
Now that's insane, right?
That's insane.
And-
That's where we're going to be if we don't start planning now. The second thing is they've incorporated deed restrictions on everything downtown. So those deed restrictions can look like a lot of things. We don't use deed restrictions around here very much, and most of them expire within a year, maybe 5. So anytime an attainable home goes on the market, even if it has a deed restriction, typically what happens is after a couple of years, they sell it, that deed restriction goes away, and our attainable housing inventory is constantly going down rather than staying or going up.
Yeah.
So in Jackson, their deed restriction is whomever lives in the home has to make 75% of their income in whatever county they're in. I can't remember the name of it. In Teton County.
Yeah.
And that could be a renter, that could be whomever owns the home. So you can still buy a home and rent it, but whomever lives in it has to make 75% of their income in Teton County. So that eliminates 2 things, which I could go down this whole rabbit hole. But one of the reasons there's a lot of reasons we have some housing issues in Heber, but one of them is because of our median income here. And our median income is, I think it's around 100,000, 80 to 90.
Wow, I'm not even in the median income.
And I'm terrible with numbers, and I wish I had my little spreadsheet with me, but that number is being falsely inflated by telecommuters. They're not making their income here in the valley.
Okay.
But it is inflating our median income, which affects a ton of things. The average income for a household that is making their money in our county is $60,000.
Really?
Isn't that incredible?
That's a surprising. I did not know that.
But that $60,000 median income doesn't work with AMI and all of those other things that can qualify you for affordable housing because that's not our median income.
Yeah.
Our median income is overinflated by people who don't work in our county. And that is one of the many things that's contributing to some of our housing issues here.
So
in the valley.
that's people that have a home here and go to Salt Lake or go to Provo.
They're either
or
traveling or they are remote workers.
They work from home.
Yeah.
And that was the COVID push was everybody. I did hear on the news the other night that a lot of like Starbucks, the corporate, they're going to start requiring their employees to go back to the office. And there's a lot of people pushing back,
Yeah, I bet.
you know.
Well, a lot of them probably moved it into other business. Right?
I was going to say, I know in Park City there was a lot of people that, you know, went to their condos and stuff. But
Yeah.
I also heard something that in Jackson Hole that a lot of their, I was going to say blue collar workers, but like the staff that cleans rooms and, you know, workers and stuff like that, they bus in. They bus in from out of town.
I'm sure. I don't see any way they couldn't.
And I know at the debate that we had at UVU that Representative Kohler, Mike was saying, you know, about, you know, expanding the transit and stuff like that. I don't know if it was county or I think it was the state one, but of bringing workers in from the valley. And I'm like, well, if we bring workers in from the valley, their money goes back down to the valley and it's not spent here. Because
Yeah.
you mentioned that 60%, is it 60% of the dollar? If, like, for me, we're having my business here, there was X amount of that dollar that stays. I mean, pretty much everything stays here.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, I mean, we go to Provo and
I
shop
saw that
occasionally,
statistic
but-
like memorized. I feel really bad right now. But
But
yeah,
I mean, bringing people in from the valley to work, if we had affordable housing here and could hire people at an affordable wage, I don't mind paying somebody a good wage.
right.
Agreed. Yep. Yeah. I
But-
think that you'd probably be surprised at what I pay at the bike shop. I'm sure that many people would be surprised what you pay. I mean, trades are a great place to be,
Yeah.
though. Don't get me wrong, in
Yeah.
any city. I think that there's a lot of communities across the United States that being a bedroom community is not a bad thing. But I think the difference is we are a bedroom community of a resort. And that is a completely different animal
Yeah.
than being Pasadena to LA. That's completely different. Pasadena is still a community. People are still spending time and money there. When you're the bedroom community to a resort, what can happen is you not only are your residents working in Park City or wherever your
Yeah.
resort is, but they're spending all their time there too.
Yeah.
And they don't put any emphasis on their local
Yeah.
community. And so then it just continues to funnel money out. And then you end up with this community that's literally only people go there to sleep
Yeah.
and they don't do anything else. They go to restaurants and movies and everything else in that community that they
yeah.
work in.
Yep.
And they literally just by bus. And I agree with you. I think that having a transit system that can help people get from the cities up to us to help us with some of the workers that
Yeah.
we're lacking right now is great.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I don't want it to be a Band-Aid that keeps us from exploring other options
Yeah.
that could solve our problem long term.
I mean, because I get it all the time. You know, I mean, I'm bidding jobs and doing work, and you know, I can get somebody from the valley cheaper. You need to go to the valley so you can come up here and charge a cheaper price. And I'm like, if I go to the valley and come up here, I'm commuting and hauling all my product, and it just doesn't work.
You know what's super interesting about that is because I work for a corporation, we use a company called CBRE that's a property management company. And I get all my own local bids, but then I also have to get a CBRE bid. Well, CBRE doesn't work with anybody up here. They only work with people down in
the
Salt Lake
valley.
in the
Yep.
valley. And their prices are always 2 to
Yeah.
3 times
Yep.
higher than anybody local.
Yep.
And so I didn't know you yet, but I used a different
Yeah.
HVAC company.
How dare
I
you.
know. This was
Sorry.
2 years ago. This was
Time
2
out.
years
No.
ago. This was 2 years ago. And they were out of Morgan. And
Yeah.
I was like, are you sure you're bidding this right?
Yeah.
You are 1/5 of what this other company quoted. And she said, 2 things happened. One thing, they're going to charge you for the travel and blah, blah, blah to get up
Yeah.
here. She goes, the other thing is, they're going to charge you the Summit Heber, or the Summit Wasatch
The
tax.
Summit Wasatch tax.
Yeah, and they're just assume that everyone up here has a ton of money.
Yeah.
So they charge you a ton. And she goes, but if you stay local, you'll get way better prices.
See, and that's what, I mean, something I do, and there's a lot of people that come into Promontory and Red Ledges, and I've been into Promontory, and the guy raises the garage, and there's 2 Ferraris and a Porsche. And other companies from the valley will go, that price just went up 50%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I'm like, I can sell it for this and still make decent money and still live.
There's a gal in Midway though. When I was working for Jeremy, we walked into this nice, larger house in Midway, and it was this one little old lady who lived there. And this company had just assumed that because it was a big house in a fancy area, that she must have been loaded. And they tried telling her that she needed to purchase a whole new furnace for $12,000. And the more we started talking to this lady, we found out her husband died. And there's something that happened with her bank accounts. And like, she at one point was well off, but she wasn't anymore. But that house was paid off, so she had no reason to really leave.
Yeah.
And it's really sad that people assume that just because we're here in this area, that yeah, everybody's well off. When
Yeah.
the opposite I'm finding is true. There's a lot of people who they live here and like, are they okay? Yes. Are they well off? No.
Yeah. Yeah.
We live in 150-year-old homes.
Exactly. That's how I own a home here. It was not built in this century.
One of the most expensive old homes, you know,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
what I love
so-
about our community, though, and that's how we can keep it that way. If we turn into a bedroom community, that looking out for each other changes.
Yeah.
Because we're no longer focused on where we are.
Yeah.
We're looking at where we're going every day.
There was Cheryl Lobb. You know Cheryl?
The name sounds familiar. I'm sure if I saw her face.
She's with Anna and BNI, and she
Yes.
put a live, she went live on Facebook. She lives over in Daniels. Or Daniel, sorry. It's Daniels to me, but Daniel. And she says, I was riding my bike, and she says she couldn't remember what road it was, but she says, I was riding my bike, and a guy drove by and waved. And she was like, it's like, oh, hey, he waved. But that was something growing up that everybody waved at everybody.
Yeah.
And you get into small towns, small town in Idaho, we still like go to Camas and people will drive by and they just wave. And we're like, oh, hey, sorry, not used to it. But
At first you go, do I know them? And you're, oh no, it's just a small town.
it's just a small town. But that thing, the smiling at somebody, waving at somebody, going into one stop in the morning, open the door and, hey, how's it going? Have no clue who the person is, but they're like, hey, how's your day?
Megan moved here from Baltimore, and that was one of the things that really, like, as we were driving down Little Sweden Road, people as they pass, it's an instinct. Or the two fingers. That's my favorite from the singer with the two fingers.
Yeah, that's what she was like. It was two fingers, just
And Megan's like, so Megan was she's like, how do you know everybody? I'm like, I don't. Why is everybody waving at you? It's just that's who it is. That's who we are.
That's what it is.
It's funny though, because she moved here and it was such a culture shock. Because she's like, we're so far from Salt Lake City, there's nothing to do. She's from Baltimore, and she's like, I don't know if I can stay and live here. And we've been here for 10 years now, and she's already like, well, I think we need 10 acres and chickens and goats. And I'm like, yes, I converted.
I'm like 1,000 acres in Montana with a 12-foot concrete fence all the way around it.
Cool. Thank you for walking us through that. We
Yeah.
did have one question in the comments about when we're talking about the walkable downtown and those little streets and stuff. Do they have an idea on parking yet?
So yeah, the concept plan is to hopefully purchase the county fire building, right, where the fire
Where the old, where
it'll
they're at
soon
now.
to be the old one,
Yeah.
the current one,
Yeah.
and the power building where you can just drop off your bills.
Payment. Yeah.
So the hope would be that the city could purchase that space from the county, and initially I think it would add around 200 parking spaces, and then their hope is to build a 3-level parking structure, which would add like 600 parking spots. And then you would be able to park there and be able to walk to most of the places. Really, you could walk from there to both sides of the street.
Yeah.
And you could still go to the Bart mural and to the Mexican bakery that's right there, and down to the park and north as well. So that's what they're
The only thing
hoping
you'd
for.
have to do is dodge the e-bikes and the e-scooters and the e-skateboards. And
Yeah.
That's a whole nother discussion.
That's funny.
So.
But parking is a huge issue for downtown for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Parking's an issue now. You go to Midway. Even here, you go down to Lola's at lunch, and they're parked down both sides of the street.
Yeah.
And I think the city, I don't know if the city bought or whatever, but there's they took a field and put a parking area there. But even down to, Swiss Days.
Yeah. I feel like it backs all the way up into Heber during
Oh, Heber, and they're parking in fields here. They're parking in fields on River Road.
Yeah.
I disappeared during Swiss Days.
Yeah, I tried to.
Actually, no, I didn't. I volunteered my wife to drive the company float, and I drove the Queens in the Chevelle.
Yeah.
So I didn't disappear during Swiss Days this year.
All right, so thank you for walking us through those. The other thing that we really wanted to talk about tonight was the election's over, and whether you won or you lost, thank goodness it's over. Hopefully, we're done with the advertisements and we're done with the bickering and the arguing. And I've seen more ugliness come out of this election than I think I've seen in a long time.
And
so,
not just on national scale. There's been a lot in
local,
state and local, and
just families tearing each other apart over politics. Right now is a good time to all of that energy and focus that you had at that one point. Let's turn it on to the local community and see what we can be putting back into the community positively. Now, we were talking about the Bart the Bear mural. I got to give an interview today with the guy that painted it, who was completely a really amazing person. They are doing a movie festival at, I think it's the Avon and not the Ideal. I could have had those backwards, but for those of you who don't know who Bart the Bear is, he is a local legend, a literal grizzly bear. There was Bart Sr. and Bart Jr. Is that what they're
They're grizzlies, eh?
yeah, they were grizzlies. So there was Bart, and then Bart Jr. There's, I think, Tank and Honey Bump are the two ones now. I'm not sure.
They were movie bears.
Yeah.
So if you've seen
Great Outdoors.
The Great Outdoors, if
That's
you've
Bart.
seen,
That's Bart Sr.
we were talking about, not Davy Crockett, who's the other guy? The one that was shot in
Grizzly
the-
Adams.
Grizzly Adams. And they're showing these movies, like Dr. Dolittle too. They're showing these movies at the theater. Doug and Lynn Seuss live in Daniel. So just on the other side, they have this compound with bears, I believe wolves.
Bears, wolves, raccoons.
Oh, cool.
All these movie animals.
Yeah.
And so we are hoping to have Doug and Lynn on here to talk about their thriving grounds. Is that what it's
Oh,
called?
I can't remember. They have a nonprofit and they buy ranches in Idaho and Montana and Alaska, and they preserve the property for wildlife, bears, elk, deer.
Oh,
It doesn't
wow.
matter.
Yeah.
They buy them up, fence them, and it's
It's
just
like preserves
yeah,
to keep these
preserved,
animals
yep.
alive in their space. Go support this cause. So at the either the Avon or the Ideal, I can't remember which one. I believe it's the Avon. They're showing these movies, and then also one of these nights. There's a couple of these. Like if you get on there, and we'll share the link of how you guys get on there and learn. But if you get on there, there's some community things where I don't think it costs anything. You just go in, and there's like part of the book that Lynn is releasing, which he told me about part of this book, and it's like behind the scenes of things that happened with Bart the bear. And he told the funniest story. And I don't want to spoil the interview, but it's incredible to think that this bear lived here. They used to take this bear, walk it down Main Street, go to the city park, feed it like ice cream or hamburgers and
Dairy King, before Dairy King was now, you could seat like 10 or 15 people inside and you ordered outside. Doug would come wandering down. I mean, Bart would be on a chain, but he'd come wandering down and tell him to sit, and he'd sit. And they'd bring cheeseburgers out and ice cream, little ice cream cones, and Bart would just grab them and shove them in his mouth and eat them. But that was, I mean, not a norm, but I mean, it happened
The Charm of You.
on, yeah.
And this is a massive bear.
And this is like big grizzly. I mean, Doug
That's
would wrestle.
wild.
I mean, I've seen video of Doug wrestling this bear, and I'm like, dude, it's gonna crush it. And I mean, Bart would open his jaws or his mouth, and I mean, just these big teeth, and Doug would be like, he'd
That's
be
so
like
neat.
on his head, on his arm, and I'm just going, yeah, if I saw this thing, I'd be like, run the other way.
That's really neat.
So this bear's a local legend, and people who have been here a lot longer than me know it very well. And so I think I'd love to see this movie festival get traction. Go into Body and Soul Studios, and they have memorabilia from a lot of these movies.
Yeah, they have I can't remember which one it is, but Bart rode on the back of a Harley. He rode on the back of a motorcycle in one of them, and that bike is in there. I mean, I'm trying to think, what's that one with Anthony Hopkins where they're going through they crash
Legends
a
of the
plane
Fall?
or something. No, Legends of the Fall was Bart,
Right.
or one of them.
They have the prosthetic butt from The Great Outdoors.
Yeah.
I want to go see that so bad. I just
That's
want to
hilarious.
touch Bart's butt.
But yeah, I mean, it's really almost any movie that there's a bear in is probably one of Seuss's bears.
That's really cool.
And but yeah, growing up, I mean, with her daughter Sasha,
Yeah.
she'd bring baby raccoons to school.
That's so good.
Oh,
She
I love a
trains. I know she's been involved with the wolves, and she's trained a lot of the wolves and stuff like that. And they actually did a drum circle over there, I think a couple years ago,
Okay.
and just had people from all over the state with drums, and they had wolves around, you know, kind of just wandering around, you know. I mean, their paws were like that big and stuff, but you know, stuff like that. It was pretty cool. And my dad knew Doug pretty well and knew one of the neighbors, and I want to say as a kid we got to go back in there, but I couldn't tell you. I can't remember. But they have land back there. What is that one? There was a show recently that they filmed, I think, in the Seuss's, and it involved the bears.
Good.
And it was almost like a reality show.
Really?
Yeah, and I'll have to find out what it was, but
Hope it wasn't like Tiger King.
no. Can you see Doug with bleach blonde hair and?
You know, I went to the gym with Doug, and I didn't know who he was. That was back when I went to the gym a while ago. And he was just the nicest person, him and his son. And like they sit and have long conversations, and all of a sudden one day is like, "Oh, you know who he is, right?" I'm like, "No." And they told me who he was. I was like, "That's incredible."
Yeah. People could pass him on the street and not have a clue.
Yeah.
Because most everybody has bushy beards or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, just the nice as can be people. I mean, you don't find much people around like the Seuss's.
That's going to be November, I think, 15th and 16th. It's that Friday and Saturday around that day. So please mark your calendars. We will share the link either tonight or tomorrow of how to find out when these things are going on, how to buy tickets. But this is also right after the Avon has been remodeled from that Steve Anderson that came in and purchased them. And I've heard it's just incredible. So
Yeah,
let's
those
make
guys
sure.
are doing
Now,
a
are
great
they, with the ticket purchase, and that's something we have to look at, are they donating any of the money from the tickets to the foundation?
I don't have a solid grasp on that. I'll find out and I'll make sure to put that in there as well. This is something local in the community that I think we all should be behind and support. So if you're watching, if you see this, please let's get behind that and do that. The other thing is there's a few things like the chamber's going to be doing. We have Thanksgiving coming up. Then we have Christmas coming up. There'll be a tree lighting. There's going to be a lot of things that are community oriented. We'll try to share as much of that as possible.
I know.
Next week is
I know just after Thanksgiving, which it's kind of weird to have it after Thanksgiving, the 4-H will be doing their turkey auction. It's kind of like the
Really?
big sale. It's kind of like the livestock auction, but kids from the school and the FFA or 4-H raise turkeys and then
It
they
doesn't
sell
get
them.
any more organic than that.
Yeah,
Organic.
I
and local.
actually last year we bought 6.
of course you did.
know
Guy
where your
buys 3
turkey's coming
pigs, 6
from.
turkeys.
But we had 3 of them were regular and 3 of them were smoked. And the smoked turkey, we pulled some out of the freezer, and my wife thought it was chicken, but it was turkey, and made homemade chicken turkey noodle soup, and it was still just as good as.
Are you tied in with the 4-H community here?
I'm not really tied in. I just
He's our biggest sponsor.
I buy a lot of pigs. We bought 4 pigs this year from the auction. And then we'll buy turkeys, and we usually donate turkeys and pigs to the food bank and some
that's cool.
local stuff.
I grew up doing 4-H, and I just really feel like it was something that taught me a work ethic and follow through and how to care for others, and I would love to get involved.
Yeah, they have the livestock auction at the fair.
A little girl came and invited me to the livestock auction
Yeah?
this year, and
Yeah.
I felt so special. I couldn't make it because it was on Saturday at 9
Yeah,
when the bike shop's the busiest, but I felt like it was full circle because
Yeah,
I
we-
always had a steer or.
You gotta tell the
We
owners,
did.
like, that's something to be part of the
Yeah.
community. Like, that's as local and
That's-
community as
yeah.
it gets.
And
Like,
that
it's
was the thing is
huge.
when I was little, like you would go in and see your picture from
Yeah.
whoever bought your.
Yeah.
I had cows or your steer, and so there'd be you and your steer
Yeah.
and the little, and
Yeah.
that was a huge deal.
I don't know if it's downstairs or at my house, but my nephew, we bought his lamb at the Summit County Fair, and he had a board that he had hanging in the back, and stuff, and had pictures of him raising the lamb and.
That's so cool.
And
Yeah.
stuff, but
I love
it's
that.
it's just again, it's community. It's a little different. I don't know what steers went through for in rifle, but
Oh, it's not
steers.
inexpensive.
Oh no,
It's
not
not.
cheap.
It's not like going to Smith's.
No,
It's,
no.
Not even close.
No,
But it is.
Well,
it's
and-
probably not certified organic, but talk about pasture raised. You know where it's being
Yeah.
processed. I mean, it's about as humane of a
I
situation
mean
as you're ever going to
Shane
get.
can vouch. So for the last few years, I bought McCarty, Kelly, and her brothers. I bought their pigs, and that's like a staple in the community.
Yeah.
Shane with Mountain Land was gone hunting and left a guy just to buy one of Kelly's pigs. And I bought all 3, and he didn't know I bought them. He's like, "Yeah, I told this guy to buy this pig, and he can't even get the job done." I was like, "Hey, you want one? I have 3."
That's awesome.
But
That's another aspect of just keeping that money local and supporting.
100%.
in the
well, and
community.
something new that I learned this year that I didn't know because we've been going several years is they actually people will show up and boost,
Oh,
and it's like a tip. And they get 100% of that money, because I know with the 4-H you auction it off and you get a portion of it, and a portion of it goes to 4-H. But like on the boost,
we got the whole thing.
that's 100% they get it. I mean, and there's some kids that walk out of there with $2,000 or $3,000 in tip money.
Oh, I remember like on your lamb. I was not this age, but like the seniors would like write like the college they were going to in like shoe stain or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like on your steer and glitter, like what you were going to use the money for.
What you're going
right?
to use the money for.
Yeah, it was such a community event for sure.
One year, it was McCarty was a senior,
Okay.
and she was graduating, and her grandpa Brent was the auctioneer, and I'm like, okay, I bought her brothers. I'm just gonna buy McCarty's, make it a clean sweep. And he gets up there and goes, "Yeah, McCarty's going to college and she's a poor, starving student." And I went, "Oh, this is gonna be expensive.
It's not gonna be cheap.
This is not going to be cheap." But again, it's just being involved in the community. I grew up here. You know, there's so many people that had businesses that gave back when we did stuff, football, wrestling, you know, anything like that. But that's kind of what it is. You know, I mean, yes, it's a tax advantage also, but we just like to be involved.
Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, I grew up here. My wife grew up in Camas, so we're here.
Yeah, nothing against butter braids or tin foil things with cookies or whatever, but as far as a fundraiser goes, yeah, I'd love to buy a turkey.
Yeah, they're
and support a kid.
We got. I mean, I can't remember. Somebody just said, "Oh, hey, they're doing it," and we just like, okay, canceled whatever. Well, we didn't have anything going on.
Oh, that's neat.
But yeah, it's the turkey auction is good, you know. But I mean, some kids will raise lamb or beef and goat and cows, and some kids raise turkeys.
Mm-hmm.
So
Remember that. I'll post a link for the turkey auction as well. I'm gonna hop on. I'm gonna see if anybody's got any other questions. If anybody's got any questions
and then the tree lighting's coming up. You know, the Midway City has one, Heber City has one.
I know the Wasatch Community Foundation has their free Thanksgiving dinner coming up as well.
Yeah. I know Polar Express is probably sold out.
Yeah.
I know somebody that has 4 tickets.
To the Polar Express for sale.
No. I bought some at auction at the 24th of July that we sponsored down there. They were selling Polar Express tickets, and I bet I don't want them.
You want to adopt my daughter for a night? Oh. We had 10 comments here, so I can pull them up here. So Heather Mayo from Body and Soul wants to remind about the book signing, Q&A with Doug and Lynn, and the short film festivals. So that's all that Bartlett Bear stuff we talked about. We'll make sure to share more details on that as far as we can. There's another comment here. Megan Bliss wants to know, is the Nutcracker sold out?
No. So that's something that is coming up, and I can get with Aubrey Pettinger. Actually, this year's the first year in how many years that we're not sponsoring a table.
Is this the one down at Hale?
No, this is
Oh, really?
The dance studio that's I can't remember the name, and I'll get chopped for it. But every year they do like a miniature Nutcracker.
Oh, cool.
And they had it at the Zermatt a couple years, and then they have it at the town hall here in Midway.
Neat.
And the dancers, they try out, and there's, everybody's there, the mice and everybody, but they serve treats from people inside the valley.
Oh, that's really
So
cool.
it's like $1,000 and you get a table of 8, or you can just buy tickets. And we usually sponsor a table. We just are a little low on sponsorship funds, so we had to decline this year, which sucks, because what we usually do is we buy a table of 8 or 10. Me and my wife go, and then we give away the tickets.
Yeah.
John, you and your daughters have
went
gone a
last
couple
year.
times.
That's
It
cool.
was a blast.
And
really
stuff, but like Sus Cookies has stuff. I don't
Is
even.
that sus?
I think it's SUSS or
It's not Seuss. I always thought it was
no,
Seuss
I think
cookies.
it's Sus. I don't know. It's just I just speak hick, so it might be different for
Maybe someone
everybody.
in the comments can clue us in on.
Somebody will clue us in on what it's
Sus or
really
Seuss.
called.
It becomes a sus cookie when they find the wrappers in my car.
Yeah.
Who ate my cookie?
I don't know anything about this.
But yeah, they have the Nutcracker, and it is pretty cool. It is a really good.
Utah Arts
Looking.
Collective is who puts
Yes.
it on. That's
Yeah,
what it is.
Utah Arts Collective, and their dance studio is just as you come into Heber, right there behind Quesaberas or Barras or whatever.
Oh, Queso Marias.
Yeah, it's back
Oh,
in that
yeah.
little thing right there is there. But there's like Aubrey Pettinger, her daughter's part of the collective, and that's usually who we sponsor and stuff like that.
That's
so.
always a blast, though.
But
That was
it
so much
is
fun.
it is a very good thing to go to.
All right, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's gonna pop in my head because there's always something.
Can I tell you the most pathetic thing? This
Yes,
is so
please.
sad for me to say out loud, and it's gonna make me sound terrible. But
I want to hear more now.
so, county council and city council get small salaries for doing it. It's not a completely volunteer job.
Sure.
And the one thing that I had told myself over the last 11 months is, don't plan on anything happening. But what I had been doing, I can barely afford to live here. Not to be sad
Yeah.
to anybody, but I work
Yeah.
so that I can pay my bills, and that's about the extent of it. But I had been spending my county salary in my head on all of these charitable things that I could never do on my own. And I'm not gonna lie, I know I'm gonna sound so righteous, but this morning I was a little sad. Like, I had already earmarked this money that I didn't get for the high school mountain bike team.
Yeah.
And I just hear about all these cool things in the community that I would love to be able to just give a little bit of money to and not have it be negative on me. But I'm sure that the current county councilors do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was
Well, and it's, I mean, and
hopefully
really,
there's another chance.
and really a lot of it is just, for the turkey auction. I mean, if you can't buy one, just show up.
Yeah.
Show up and just support. I mean, that's, I mean,
Spread the word.
we
That's the way
haven't,
that I can support a lot of things. It's just by sharing the word of things.
Yeah.
I can't afford it.
share it on social media. I mean, they talk about, supporting a business locally, just give them a shout out,
Yeah.
And I mean, and we're fortunate, to be here in the valley. I mean, and we, people support us and buy furnaces and we do their work. And we try to give as much as we can, pay it forward. Exactly. We try to pay it forward as much as possible. And I mean, John's met my dad.
Yeah.
You might get to meet my dad. He's old,
He sounds like a legend.
In his own rights, he absolutely
he
is.
delivered mail in Heber for like 35 years.
Yeah,
he delivered.
I heard on the podcast, Osman the Postman.
Yeah, he delivered like one route for like 18 years. So he.
But
knew
he's not
everybody.
current. He doesn't anymore.
No, he's retired.
So he's not
he's
that.
retired. He comes in here and cleans the toilets, empties the garbage, and then wants a big salary.
He's also a bail bondsman. So
He's also a bail bondsman.
He used to deliver mail. Now he delivers bail.
Now he, he's the bail bondsman. But I mean, once you meet him and get to know him, then you know exactly.
That's awesome.
You know exactly where I get it from.
He barely knew Megan and I, and my wife got in an accident in the canyon. I had just started working from Jeremy, and I told Jeremy about it, and Jeremy's like, "Don't worry." Called his dad. His dad showed up, put my wife and kids in his Jeep, and
brought him
took
up.
care of him. Entirely grateful for that, man. He's incredible.
When we get him, hopefully we'll get him on here and interview him. And we used to drive up and down Provo Canyon. So, I don't know, it was like a 70-something Cordoba, like a Dodge, huge car. We would drive up and down the canyon with a chain on the back. This is just a car. And we drive up and down the canyon, pull people back on the road. And then once we had our Blazer, we, 4-wheel drive, we drive up and down the canyon. Me and Anna got married. We were newly married and had a Jeep Cherokee, and we were driving up and down Mayflower, pulling people on the road, and she thought I was just nuts. She's like, "You're crazy," and I was like, "That's just what we did. That's what we did for fun on Friday night." What'd you guys do? We pulled people back on the road. So
Small town.
Small town.
Yeah.
Coming up next week is Veterans Day.
Yeah.
So if anybody out there is watching, we are hoping to have a roundtable with a few local veterans and just have a conversation about their lives and pay respects and a tribute to veterans. So that is in the works. We are hoping to bring on Doug Seuss and Lynn Seuss, talk about the books, talk about Vital Grounds. And then we had, did you ever get a hold of the girl from the food pantry?
I haven't, but we'll have Noelle on, I'm hoping, before Thanksgiving.
We're coming for you.
But she runs the food pantry, and
I met her the other night. She's fantastic.
She's great. I mean, it's a thankless job. She works her butt off.
Yeah.
For the
That
food
is a
pantry.
thankless job.
And I mean, just to shout out, I mean, if you have, I know there's a coat drive that's coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of you posted about that recently.
The coat drive coming up. I mean, with the food pantry, gift cards. A lot of people think it's just food. If it's a cash donation, a lot of times if it's a big cash donation, that money goes to Provo. So gift cards, go to Walmart and get a gift card, go to Smith's. I know Smith's does a program where if if they ask you to donate $1, would you like to donate money to the food bank? When that money's donated, they actually match it.
Oh, that's cool.
And stuff for the food bank. But just working with Noelle the last couple of years on stuff we've donated, it's, she said a gift card from Walmart, sometimes people come in and their kids don't have shoes. So she can take that gift card to Walmart and buy them shoes. Either food pantry. I mean, Noelle runs the one right there behind the new pavilion being built at the park. And then there is the CCC over by, believe it's over by CarQuest used to be there, the old days building over there behind Zion's. There's a little the Christian Center one. I
Behind
believe,
the studio.
Yeah, they
I
have.
don't know about that one.
They have.
Just down the street
it's
from
like a
the
thrift store.
Animal Paws thing.
Yeah.
What is it called?
Pause for Life.
Paws for Life, yeah.
Yeah, they're in the front, and Pause for Life is in the back.
Oh, there you go.
First West.
Yeah, they're like right next to Wasatch back in Florida.
Yeah, yep. And I think that's where their food pantry is, but there's
Yeah, I
a
did know
couple
about
of
that.
different ones there.
Now that you say that.
But get out if you have a little extra, donate, because there's always people looking, that need a meal or need Thanksgiving dinner. Okay, I think that's about it. Any thoughts or never gonna come back? You're just like, these guys are weird.
I feel so privileged to get to be on the podcast, and not only be on the podcast, but be one of the first people.
One of the first.
Yeah. I love
This is our third one.
It's funny you said that because I was going to ask, I would love to have you back at least once a month to help keep us updated on what's going on and keep our perspective straight. Because as we've said on every single podcast, if all you're learning about is things on social media and through the comments, it's not good for your mental health, and it's not a good progressive thing for the community.
And there'll be times that, we might take a recording of a city council or a county council meeting off and have a round table of 3 or 4 different people. We just want, lay person like me that has no clue. I'm in the city working, and I see things and get blips, but it's just, hey, what's your take on this? And we want to pull people that are just average people off the street and be like, hey, what do you think about this, that's going on? Because...
And I'm a dork. I love this stuff. Getting it nominated to the planning commission was so cool. And then I went to a planning conference for 2 days, and I learned so much. And I wish it was a better paying hobby. Unfortunately, it's not. So I still have to work at the bike shop, which I love. But I love all this stuff, and I hope to bring an unbiased explanation about what's happening.
That's what we need.
But that's what I think, is that people are just looking for an explanation.
Yeah.
And if the only place to find it is on Facebook, there's a good chance that you're maybe not getting the whole story or the right story.
No. Right.
And it's so easy to get fired up about things, and then once you hear about what's actually happening, you're like, okay.
I'm so guilty of that.
Is there a point to be fired up about something? Probably, but it's probably not yet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but
I would
it's
love
just
to.
engaging in conversation, and that's what the Wasatch Way. That's what we kind of want to do. Is we just want to engage in conversation. If what we're doing reaches 50 or 75 people that go, oh, hey, they had a good point, or they discussed this and they answered my question.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know that I'll ever run for anything again, but
I hope you do.
one of the things
I thought it was going to be Mayor Broughton.
Mayor Broughton.
Mayor Broughton.
Whew, got ways to go.
Oh, Andrew
Just-
Mines is going to be governor. We can't forget
Oh,
that.
yeah. Mine's
Just like
for governor.
I want to bring fresh perspectives, I learn a ton
Yeah.
from people and what your perspective is too, because we all walk in different shoes.
So we got Broughton for mayor, Mines for governor, Bliss for president.
Can you imagine the society we would live in if that were the case?
Y'all, if I was president, I would let you all down. That is my only campaign promise.
But if you were president, we'd have when they took a picture of the White House, there'd be 30 smokers on the front lawn.
I almost bought another one the other day. There was on the corner of the stoplight right there on the road to Midway. He has that big
it's out
sign.
here. Yeah.
I hopped out. I'm like, you doing a yard sale or what? He's like, yep, yard sale. I'm like, how much for that smoker? And he's like, he told me a number, and I was like, you know what? I have 4 in my backyard. Probably shouldn't. My wife would kill me. But I got that big ass Dutch oven. It's like,
Yeah. Don't you have that? Don't you have a green egg too?
yeah, but it's called a Kamado.
Yeah.
It wasn't the right price for number 5, huh?
He just
wasn't
didn't want to have to call Jeremy and say, "Can I sleep in your fifth wheel?" Because my wife kicked me out.
Yeah, if I brought him another smoker, I'd have to sleep in it. I've been lucky that as I've been bringing him in, I get rid of one, and yeah.
One in and out, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's kind of the program my brain's on.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
you're good.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so much
guys.
for joining
Yeah.
us.
I love it, and thank you guys for your friendship. I've really been excited to meet you, and you honestly, I've met a ton of people during this campaign, and you've all enriched my life. And so I'm
Aw.
Appreciate it.
I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I know I sound super cheesy, But I mean everything I say. Speaking of super cheesy, it's a great food truck in town.
Oh,
but
it is. It is
Yeah.
very
They
good.
are great.
Oh.
They
That
are
and the
great.
grilled cheese is so
Yeah,
bomb.
they are good. But
The only problem is they're not very diabetic friendly right now.
You don't need diabetes. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.
Next week.
Yeah, next week.
I'll see you from the other side. Thanks, guys.
So that's our little podcast.
I love it. It goes so fast.